Okay, good afternoon. So on behalf of Pollstar, I want to welcome you all to Pollstar Live 2016. I trust you guys are enjoying the weather as well as the conference so far. A little different than last year for all of you that were there. We have again set a record attendance for this year, so I want to thank you all for coming. At this time, we'd like to introduce our keynote speaker for today. He has a fascinating story from his birth in India to moving to Boston with $50 in his pocket, obtaining his master's from MIT, an MBA from Harvard, and becoming a Baker Scholar. He ultimately, in the course of his career, early in his career, revolutionized the way trading is done on Wall Street, and he's also developed software that's used by numerous Fortune 500 companies, including Amazon, eBay, and FedEx. In the tech world, he's earned the title Mr. Real Time. His credits also include being a New York Times best-selling author with 3 books. And today, as owner and chairman of the Sacramento Kings, he and his team are building what they believe to be the most technologically advanced arena in the world. And their goal, among other things, is to turn Sacramento, California into the next great American city. And today we're going to do something just a little different. Calling the play-by-play, we have the voice of the Kings, Mr. Scott Moak, in an interview with our keynote speaker. Will you now please welcome Mr. Vivek Ranadivé.
Appreciate it. Thanks. All right. A little fireside chat here at Pollstar. Hello to everybody. My name is Scott Moak. As you heard, I have the opportunity to work for this man here and for the Sacramento Kings, just a few miles up the road. So thank you for sure for having us, and of course our chairman, owner of the Sacramento Kings, Vivek Ranadivé, who is going to spend some time here talking to you all today about obviously our new and beautiful building that's on its way to being completed in October. Talk a little bit about, probably a lot about technology, talk a lot about what you have in store for many of the acts and artists. And so we have some questions that were sourced both by Pollstar. Some of you just over the last couple hours had submitted some questions. And I think if there's a chance and some interest out there, we'll also take some questions from the crowd. I think you said you were okay with that. If not, I'll be fired after this event, so that'll be great. So I think before we get started, maybe important for some of the folks that don't know a little bit of the backstory, but maybe before the backstory even, I know there were a lot of people you were thanking in the back, and I know between Gary and all the folks we've met with over the last 24 hours, the chance to be here, you have said over and over, is just extraordinarily exciting.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Gary and Pollstar for hosting this event and for having us. It's a privilege and an honor, and I'm delighted to be here. So thank you.
So let's do that. Let's jump right into the backstory of Vivek Ranadivé. Tell us a little bit, for the folks that don't know, some of how you arrived to even where you sit today in front of everyone.
Thanks, Scott. Yeah, so my story starts in Bombay, and I was, when you get older, you look back at your life and you say, was there a defining moment in your life that set the direction, the course for the rest of your life? And for me, it happened when I was a little boy in Bombay, and it was the middle of the night. And I had my ear plastered to a little transistor radio. And I heard these magical words, one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. I was listening to the Voice of America broadcast the moon landing. And I said to myself, wow, that's incredible. Who are these people that were able to take a man, put him in a box, and propel him 250,000 miles away to land on a rock flawlessly the very first time? Who are these people? What courage, what brilliance, what vision, what perseverance. And it was then that I said to myself, I want to be one of them. It was then that I decided that I wanted to dedicate my own life to the study of science and technology, and that I wanted to somehow make my way to America. So that was the start of my journey. I applied to a school in Boston, MIT. They made a mistake in the admissions process and let me in.
I know that story. I have the same one, just not at MIT, sadly.
And I showed up on the shores of Boston with like $50 in my pocket, but with very big aspirations and very big dreams. And so that was how my journey started.
As you obviously came to America and then were able to hone your expertise, came with expertise but honed it, and then started quickly applying that to your businesses and businesses that you started. Talk a little bit about how that transition happened and how you started applying some of that expertise in.
Sure. So I studied engineering at MIT, and I also studied at the Harvard Business School. And it became clear to me pretty early on that I was probably unemployable, so I had to try to figure out how to do something by myself. And the big idea that I had came to me many, many years ago. I was trained as a hardware engineer, and I realized that the software was always hard. The hardware worked, but the software was always late, it was always over budget, and it never quite got there. And I said to myself, why can't software be done like hardware? And so the big idea that I came up with was, if you look at how a computer is built and you take off the back plane, there's what you call a bus, and you plug cards into it. And so the big idea that I've pursued most of my life was to create a software bus. The way that software had been done is, if you built an application and you looked at what's in it, then a lot of it was infrastructure. And then you built another application, you recreated the infrastructure, and then you had to build bridges for A and B to talk. And then you built another one, and you had more of these bridges. And so if you had n of these systems, then you needed n squared or n times n minus 1 back and forth interfaces to make them all communicate. And so the idea that I had was simply to have a bus like we had in hardware, have all these applications through a single interface, communicate across the bus, and to do it all in real time. I first was able to apply this idea to trading floors, and my first client was a guy called Bob Rubin, who was running Goldman Sachs at the time, and he gave me the opportunity to apply this on his trading floor. So that's kind of how I got my start. That grew. It became a company that digitized and automated Wall Street, and I then ended up selling it, but started another company to take the idea of a real-time backbone or a bus and to apply it to every industry, and really dedicate myself to the notion that if you get the right information to the right place at the right time, and you put it all in the right context, then you can make the world a better place. And that's the dream I've been chasing my entire life.
And catching up with that dream, obviously, in many instances, including one of the things you talk a lot about, which is the fan experience, and how you're now seeing how that connects up to fans, and whether it's at a concert, at a sporting event. How are you making? What's your vision for how you're making that connection between that digitization that you used at Wall Street and catching up to the fan experience and providing something there?
Yeah, so I think that we're entering a new era right now, and I call it Civilization 3.0. So Civilization 1.0 was the start of modern civilization, and it was driven by the agrarian revolution. People were farmers, shopkeepers, carpenters, and it was the age of the artisan. And then with the Industrial Revolution, we entered Civilization 2.0, where it was really the age of the corporation, and it was all about efficiency. We're now living in an era where the world's largest bookstore has no actual stores. The world's largest hotel owns no real estate. The world's largest taxi company owns no cars. And so we're entering this era that I call Civilization 3.0, where it's really about information and service. And so if land was the raw material of 1.0 and energy and steel were the raw materials of 2.0, then ideas, imagination, information, data are the raw materials of 3.0, which is really good news for all of you here, because the people creating are the ones that will own that future. So then when you start thinking about that and saying, well, what does that mean actually for a city? And so what is City 3.0? And City 1.0, it was really the start of modern cities, and cities were places for people to live. With 2.0 and the Industrial Revolution, people started moving into the suburbs, and cities became a place for people to work. Now, if you look at our kids and you look at the natives of 3.0, they tend to be urbanites, and cities are places for people to live, to work, to play, to enjoy sports, to enjoy music, art. And if it was about river access in 1.0 or ocean access, and that was about airport and road access in 2.0, then it's become more about information access, web access, idea access, opportunity access in 3.0. And so given this kind of a backdrop, the arena becomes central to what the city of the future is going to look like. Now, this is not a new concept. It goes back thousands of years ago. They had coliseums thousands of years ago. But if you think of the city of the future as being a place where people will actually live and work and play and enjoy music and enjoy art and watch sports, then that becomes very much a part of that vision. Now, we talk about fans, and I've spent my life automating companies and using technology to help companies. And what I like to say to them is, look, you guys all have customers, and what makes me as a sports team owner different is that I have fans. The fans will paint their face purple. Fans will evangelize 24/7 about what you're doing. And so we have something that nobody else has, and everybody is trying to convert their customers into fans. So then we start thinking about, well, what should the fan experience be? How do we create the arena of the future? What is Arena 3.0? And what does it mean to be a fan in the future? And so we thought a lot about this as we started the construction of our new arena. First of all, we have to make it a completely frictionless experience. Fans go through a lot of trouble to get to your arena. And so the experience should start even before they actually get there. It should start when they think about going there. They should know who are their friends that are going, which other friends might they invite. What's the shortest way to get to the arena? Where do you park? What is the best way to get from where you parked to your seat? And how do you do it without any paper, without any friction, without any tickets, and without even having to take your phone out? So if you choose to, rather than you checking into the arena should check into you. And the arena should know who you are. You should be able to walk up to the arena, and it should recognize you, it should direct you to your seat. We have amazing fans in Sacramento. And so really, our goal is to provide a level of experience for those fans like no other.
And those fans, for sure, in Sacramento are clamoring to get inside of this structure that they're watching being built right before their eyes now, just less than 250 days, I think, even away from that moment in time when it's going to open. I know one of the things you talk passionately about to those fans and to others is the design of the building, and actually what went into some of the other components to make it ultimately what people are going to experience. Technology for sure, and the other features as well. You want to talk a little bit about some of those?
Sure. When we started the arena project, we assembled some of the world's best architectural firms, and we told them to show us their very best. And they put a huge amount of effort and resources into showing us what they had. And every time they came, I would send them back and say, show me more, show me more. And so finally they said, well, what do you want? And I said, well, it has to be iconic. It has to be iconic. It has to be the kind of thing that could be a postcard of California. This is our state capital. It's the world's 7th largest economy. This has to be iconic. And so finally they got frustrated and said, well, how do you define iconic? And I said, that's easy, If I do this with my hands, then you know that I'm talking about the Transamerica Pyramid, not far from here. Iconic. If I do this like a squiggle with my hands, you know that I'm talking about the Sydney Opera House. Iconic. So now, if you do this, you're talking about our arena. It's the world's first indoor-outdoor arena. So we finally saw something that we felt was iconic, a design like no other. Sacramento has great weather almost all year round, and we wanted something that was beautiful to look at, was iconic, but also took advantage of what Sacramento was all about, and the outdoors coming in, the indoors coming out. So we're able to hit a switch, and we have the same doors that SpaceX uses on their rockets, on their rocket hangars coming up, and the arena opens up. So the design is spectacular, and we think it is truly iconic, something that's never been done before. But it's also it takes account of Civilization 3.0 sentiments. So it's extremely green. So this is going to be 100% powered by solar energy. Even the food that we serve will be locally sourced. So we know that residents of Civilization 3.0 tend to be concerned about the environment, and so we've factored that in. But it's also the most wired arena that's ever been built. And so the computing capacity, the networking, the bandwidth, all of that is unprecedented. So you can see things in virtual reality. You can interact with your friends. We have a gigantic video board like no other anywhere. And so from all aspects, this is an arena that we think delivers in terms of the promises that we've made to our fans.
For sure. The questions when we were walking in, I would say just quickly from some folks coming up and introducing themselves to you, there was always a question about your daughter's basketball team. That's one that would always come up. You can chat about that. I know there's some interest out there, but I think one of the things we heard over and over outside was this notion of indoor-outdoor that you touched on, and how much different that is from virtually any venue in the world. So I know that from the promoter standpoint and people who are here today, is that something that they would ever be able to see or have the opportunity to experience the show in any other place, anywhere? I
don't believe so. We've consulted with many performers, and we think that this will be one of the prime spots for any performer. So if you look at the entire world and say, which are the 3 or 4 places that I have to perform, we believe that our Golden One Center will be one of them.
Love it.
So, the first thing is they're going to sell out. We sell out our shows. But it's not just selling out to anybody, it's selling out to an amazing demographic. Sacramento is the country's most diverse city. It's also got a very large population of young people. And it's got 100,000 people that are within walking distance of the arena. So we're going to sell this place out. We're going to sell it out with some amazing people. And the performing artists are going to be able to reach the demographics that matter to them. Now, that's just in terms of the fan base and how easy it is for them and how we make it a fantastic experience for them to be a part of this. But then from the performer's point of view, this is going to be like no other venue. We're the first indoor-outdoor arena, so you could have 18,000 people inside. And
it's always the announcer's fault. I promise that was somehow mine.
Yeah. And then you could have another 8,000 people outside, and the performer will be going back and forth between the inside and the outside. A lot of it is getting amplified on the huge video board. So that's never been done before, where you're inviting the outside in, and you have a plaza with a lot of people, and then you have the 18,000 people inside. Now we also have the very best acoustics, so we paid a lot of attention to that. How do you make sure that the performance is received in the best possible manner? And so we've put in the latest technology for the very, very best acoustics for the performer. We've also paid a lot of attention to just making it extremely dynamic and flexible. And so the performer can literally design what it should be like with virtually no limitations, and where they want to put the stage and how they want to go inside or outside, and is it on one side, is it on the other side, is it up, is it down? And so there's a lot of room for creativity in how the performer does this. Then we've also added some other cool features. We have a recording studio right in the arena, so if after Beyonce performs she wants to go lay some tracks with DeMarcus Cousins,
totally,
she can do that.
I'd buy that album, I think.
Yeah, and that's and that's not even so we have a huge list of things we're doing, and we're going to make use of projection technology and even hologram technology, so that if Taylor Swift says she wants to perform with Michael Jackson, she should be able to. And so we're going to have a level of technology and technology usage that's simply unparalleled anywhere in the world.
And a lot of that being obviously focused inside this jewel of a building that's set to open soon. But there's also a lot going on around the periphery, around campus or downtown commons, as we refer to it. Talk a little bit about some of the other parts of the development, and even really some of that goes back to why you even wanted to do this in the first place. Obviously, you have a lot of ties here to the Bay Area, Golden State Warriors connections originally, and now obviously with the Kings. But you spent time in a great American city, and I know you talk about being excited about not just the arena and what that stands for and is going to do to Sacramento and for Sacramento, but really it's more than just the arena.
Yeah. So and you asked me this earlier about my daughter's basketball team.
Yeah.
So the way that I fell in love with basketball, the story goes back a few years, over 10 years, and I was a single dad. My youngest is a girl, and she was 12 years old, and I foolishly volunteered to coach her basketball team. Now, understand that I grew up in Bombay, where we played cricket and we played soccer, and I never actually touched a basketball in my life. So I show up at a gym in Redwood City, not far from here, and there's this gigantic gym with multiple courts. And I look around the room, and I see the other coaches, and they're all ex-Division I, Stanford, Duke dads, like 7 feet tall, and then there's me. And then I looked at the girls, and I realized that they had this thing called a draft that I didn't know what that was at the time, and they had picked all the best players, and they had given me the girls that nobody else wanted. And so the first day I looked at them, and I thought, I had noble intentions that I would spend more time with my daughter, and this would be a nice way to spend time with her. And I realized that I was about to make a complete fool of myself in front of her friends, because I didn't even know what a layup was. So the first day what I said is, girls, today we're going to run. And I made them run up and down the court for an hour.
That's a great way to get going with the friends, for sure.
right.
Like, that's how you get in.
That's right. So then, one of the things is I just don't like to lose. I hate to lose. And I went back and I studied the game. And I'm a little bit of a math nerd. So I came up with a math equation for the game.
Another great way to get in to that friends zone with
So then the next practice, I taught them the math equation. And somehow they bought into it. And I convinced them to embrace it. And so they believed the math equation and they embraced what it said. And after that, we followed a certain formula, and we ended up winning every single game and taking the team to the national championship. And so I fell in love with the game. And,
Wait, how did you like? You can't just jump right over the top of that. Like, how did that happen?
Well, so basically what the math equation said is that you have to, if you win the turnover battle by 5 or more turnovers, and I defined a turnover as any time you get the ball when the other team should have the ball. So it could be an interception, it could be a steal, it could be, just a deny on an inbound play, it could be a charge, it could be anything. And if you win that, then you basically win the game, no matter how badly you shoot. And so what I did is I just played a full court press the whole game, and when the other team was trying to inbound the ball, I wouldn't even let them inbound it. And I wouldn't have somebody guarding the inbounder. I would have my girls front the other girls. And they were not able to inbound the ball. And when they were inbounding it, they were under their basket. So we would take the ball and it'd be a layup for us. And so basically I kind of changed the rules. And Malcolm Gladwell wrote, his new book is about this. It's called David and Goliath, or David versus Goliath. And it was based on this story. And so really, the moral of the story was that if you work harder than anyone else, which a full court press means that you're working harder than anyone else, and you think outside the box, you set your own rules, then David can beat Goliath. And so there would be games where we would do this and we would be up 25-0, and then the refs would say that the rule book says that you got to lay off the press and you can't keep doing that. And so we kind of changed the rules of the game, and we ended up winning. There was one game where, and many of the teams we were playing, these were girls that had been playing all their lives, and they were really good. And the coaches were ex-players, and they were all like really big guys. And I remember there was one game where it was like one of the best teams, and they just thought that they should win this game. And the coach was so upset that he asked me to meet him in the parking lot outside.
Just for a chat, I'm sure, just some strategy chat.
Yeah. Well, I have one of my best friends is a guy called Roger Craig, and so he used to play for the Niners. And so I took Roger with me.
That's helpful.
Yeah. So I did go, but I took Roger Craig with me. but anyway, so that's how my love of basketball started. And then a few years later, my friend Joe Lacob, our kids went to school together. He was making a bid for the Golden State Warriors, and he asked me to join him. And we bought the team, and the team had been bad for many years, and we started doing some things, and it got worse, and then it got better.
Yeah, they've gotten a little better.
Yeah, and just as it got a lot better, I got calls from people in Sacramento, and they said that look, the Sacramento Kings are being bought by somebody, and they're going to move the team to Seattle. And so can you please help us keep the team, and can you buy the team? And I said, no, I live in Silicon Valley, and these guys are all my friends. My kids are Warriors fans, and we finally have a team that's going to make the playoffs. And it's, no. So they kept calling, and then I started looking at just the passion of the Sacramento fan base. I saw it on Twitter, I saw it on social media, and I realized that these were some amazing fans. And I came to California with not a dime in my pocket, so everything I have I owe to the state of California. And Sacramento is our state capital. And at some point I thought, maybe this is something that I should do and I need to do. Because without the Kings, the city, it would be like ripping the heart out of the city, and there is nothing else, and the city will be severely impacted. This is the world's 7th largest economy, it's the capital, and so I jumped in, and we bought the team, and as part of buying the team, I had to make a personal commitment to the NBA that we would build a new arena, and we would build it in a certain time frame, and if we didn't succeed in that, then they could actually take the team back from us.
Right.
So thanks to my team here, Chris and Martina and others, and thanks to the state, which passed a law that helped us expedite the building process, we're actually going to be done 1 year ahead of when we had made the commitment. So we're very happy that we're going to have this great arena.
And again, not just the arena. It's a hotel that's going in, a space that's bigger than LA Live. For many, I know many here know the LA Live space, and a campus that's actually bigger than that. And back to that, something you talked to us all about, the notion of building the next great American city. I mean, that was really another one of those. The fans certainly, but the opportunity to build something like that in Sacramento.
Yeah. So we are building what we think of as City 3.0. And the DOCO, or the Downtown Commons, is the foundation for that. It'll be the world's smartest block anywhere. And the arena, which will be sports and entertainment, and then there's a hotel, there's some flagship stores, all really designed for the future. And then we also are very interested in art, so we've bought Jeff Koons is one of my favorite artists, and his coloring book. There's one in London, there's one in Paris, and now there'll be one in Sacramento, and it'll be the only public display of Jeff Koons. So we want to make this really just the foundation for creating the next great American city. Maybe we can take a quick. Is it possible for us to take a quick look at the video that we have?
I think we can do that, fellas back there. Can we? Do we have a video that we can go to? With some audio to it. Very nice, yes. Before we open it up, if there are, we have a little bit of time for questions. I think if there are some out there, maybe a takeaway of why should what's going to be unique? Those most unique things that you're excited about for that building and the area, for performers and acts, concerts, and so forth to come and visit us in Sacramento and be part of the new story of Sacramento. What is it that you want to leave these folks with to remember?
Well, I think I alluded to some of this earlier, but we think this will be one of the top performing venues in the entire world, and they can be sure that they're going to sell it out. They can be sure that it's going to be very frictionless and painless for their fans to come enjoy the experience. There's 100,000 people that live within walking distance, so it's going to be really easy to get to. The technology and how the whole concept of the arena checking into you. So it's the most diverse city in America. It's got a very large young population. We'll sell everything out. But then from the performance point of view, just the technology and the indoor-outdoor aspects, being able to have performances that are truly unique, but also amplify their own capabilities, give them a lot of freedom in how they want to design the performance, indoors, outdoors, where the stages are, how technology is incorporated, how 3D projection is incorporated into it. The very large video boards provide further amplification. And I know a lot of the performers also tend to be Civilization 3.0 people themselves, and they care about the environment, and it's 100% solar powered. The food is all locally sourced, and we've paid attention to every aspect of making it easy for them. One of the things that I had my team do when we first got involved with this arena design was I had them meet with a friend, a guy called David Kelly, and he has a company called IDEO. And when Steve Jobs wanted ideas on how to design his new iPhone or his Mac or whatever, he would go to David Kelly for ideas. And so we went to him and said, help us think about what should we be thinking about, and how do we make this the best possible fan experience. And so we looked at every potential point of friction, both for the fans, but also for the performers. So just how easy it'll be for them to get their trucks in and out, how easy it'll be to set up their stages. So there's a level of attention to detail that's unparalleled. And this is an arena that is really future-proofed in terms of the technology and the bandwidth and the infrastructure that we've built into it. So we don't think that it'll be second best anytime soon. It's going to be a long time before somebody can come and one-up what we're putting together here. So we're super excited about the platform that this provides for the world's best entertainers.
You bet. Let's do this. Are there some questions out there that see a couple hands shoot up? I think we have some of our trusty Pollstar staffers that can run a mic out and let us know who you are and your question.
Are we on?
Yeah.
I'm Paul Beard. I live in Las Vegas. Work with a performing arts center. But when I think of the parallels between Las Vegas and what you're doing in Sacramento, there was a time when Las Vegas kind of ran out of fresh ideas, and then Cirque du Soleil came along, and we're able to use that city as a platform for a completely new kind of content. And I'm wondering what you're visualizing or imagining for content in this incredibly innovative new platform.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, that's a great question. And this, in many ways, when I think about an arena, I think of it as a 21st century communal fireplace. So hundreds of years ago, people would build cathedrals, and that's where they gathered, or they'd build a town square. And so this is the communal fireplace, but it's also becoming increasingly global. So there's technologies like 3D projection and virtual reality that we're very, very excited about and we're investing in heavily. In fact, even before we started building the arena itself, we had a experience center set up where we used virtual reality to give fans the ability to look at what the arena is going to be look like, what their own experience will be, what the view will be from where they're sitting. And so even before we started digging, we were able to sell out because we showed them what it was going to be like using virtual reality. We now have many of our games being broadcast in virtual reality where fans in Bombay or Beijing, and we actually do this in overseas. We give out these virtual reality glasses, and they can sit there and have the same experience that I have sitting on the floor in Sacramento. So I think that that's a great question, and we're giving that a lot of thought. But we think just the 3D projection, virtual reality, the indoor-outdoor aspect, we think that there's going to be a whole new type of performance. It'll be performance 3.0. If we're creating City 3.0 and we're creating Arena 3.0, then we think that the more creative performers will actually take this up to yet another level, and then be able to share that with their global fan base. And so even if you weren't able to actually buy the ticket and come to Golden One, you could still be wearing virtual reality glasses and seeing what your friends there are experiencing and almost be there virtually.
Question in the back?
Getting my life back, you came here starting from nothing. Can you tell me, or in the audience, how you get started and how did you make it from scratch? It's a real interest to me.
Sure. Well, I had, I was very lucky, but I basically my first client was Goldman Sachs, and they gave me the opportunity. I shared my idea with them, and they gave me the opportunity to actually try that idea on them. And for some reason, they were willing to take the bet and just give me a chance to try to take my idea and apply it. So they actually gave me a contract to go build it. And I remember the very first day, so they called me and said, hey, tell us what you're thinking about. And I gave them the same kind of pitch that I gave you about a software bus. And the guy who was in charge of Goldman at the time, Bob Rubin, he said, let me show you my trading floor. And he took me to the 29th floor of the 85 Broad Street building where they were headquartered at the time. And he said, do you think this will apply to my trading floor? And I said, yeah, it's a great place to apply it. So they gave me a little contract to show what that would look like. And then they told me, okay, now come back in the morning and explain this to our partners. So I said, okay. So, they would have these meetings early in the morning before the market opened. It was like 7 o'clock, which, for me was like 4 o'clock California time. So they invited me to attend the meeting. So I go to this meeting, and I'm this young kid out of MIT and Harvard, and I'm sitting in this room. It's the partners' private dining room, and the 5 guys who run Wall Street and me. So I start talking about this idea of a software bus and what I'm going to do. And so then all of a sudden the door opens and a guy walks in. So Bob waves him away and says, go on. So then I continue. And the door opens again and a guy walks in and waves him away. The third time it happens, he taps me on the shoulder and he says, son, you got to stop tapping your feet. So I was so nervous that I kept going like that with my feet. And every time I did that, it would hit a little switch under the carpet and summon the waiter. So anyway, I had, that was my first day with my new contract. But I've stumbled many times, but that worked out, and we built a system, and I was able to get customers to buy into my ideas and finance them and then deliver on them. This is a country where anything is possible, and I always like to say when people ask me for how do you succeed, I say, well, this is America, anything's possible, and everything that's been done can be done better. People always have this tendency to think that, well, that's already been done, but look, everything can be done better. When Phil Knight started Nike, they'd been making shoes for thousands of years, and he created with the waffle iron, he created a better shoe. And when my friend Steve was at Apple, and phone companies were tripping over themselves to make cheaper and cheaper and cheaper phones. And so Steve says, he's going to make a phone, which he's never done before. It's not anything he knows about. And he makes a phone that's way more expensive than all the Motorola's and Nokia's and all the other guys. And so he goes the other way. And then within 3 or 4 years of him doing that, the iPhone business was actually worth at that time more than Microsoft and Google combined. So, so everything can be done better. I don't care what it is, but it can be done better. And there's some kid somewhere figuring out how to make it better right now. The second thing is just be, just be flexible and listen to what customers and the market are telling you. And don't get so locked in that you're not able to listen to what you're hearing. And if you really do listen to what you're hearing, you'll get some great ideas, and you'll create something that's of value. But the third one is the most important, which is, never, ever give up. Just persevere, 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 and never, ever give up. So that's kind of been my, those have been things that have worked for me. And I will also say that I've been very fortunate with everything I've done. And the same is true at the Kings right now, where I've been able to surround myself with people that are way smarter than me. And that's something that I strongly believe in, is to surround yourself with really smart people.
Yes, sir.
I was wondering if you could go into a little more detail regarding all the technology and the advancements of the arena, sort of the more unsexy details. For instance, converting it from an indoor arena to an outdoor arena, how does that happen? What is the mechanics behind it? A couple other ones might be, for instance, how do you incorporate hologram technology permanently into an arena? Where is it? How's it set up? Or what are some of the specifics of the load-in that makes this a nice, easy day for a production crew?
Yeah, so I will defer to maybe after the talk and have my CTO and me talk at more length. But we've been able to really leverage a lot of the advances. We think that there's a non-linearity in a lot of areas right now. And whether it's just the bandwidth we're able to put into the arena, which is, I think, an order of magnitude higher than the highest arena that's out there right now. And I talked about future-proofing it. And that then makes it possible to do all kinds of things with virtual reality and other things. So we've really focused on the platform issues. How do we think of the arena as a platform, and how do we make sure that the platform is future-proofed, and how do we make sure that it has all the things that you can't go back and change later on? How do we make sure that we do that? And that's been a design principle. And so rather than, our philosophy has always been, rather than trying to solve a problem, we want to solve a class of problems, because there's no way for us to know, what somebody 10 years out might be thinking about. So if we can solve a whole class of problems in how we design this, and so that's kind of been, the value system in terms of how we've approached the design, and we think that through that we've been able to future-proof it. We can't really predict, whether it's going to be augmented reality or, it's going to be some kind of 3D projection that 10 years out is the big thing. But we just want to make sure that we're wired for being able to do those kinds of things, and some of the things like the access and so on, that's not rocket science. We know how big the trucks are, and we know how many trucks would be coming, and we know what our road situation is. So how do we think about that in advance so that we're even able to project forward and say that this is what it might look like. Then there's other kinds of technology that I'm a big fan of that we didn't talk about even, and I'm a huge believer in what's happening with deep machine learning software right now, with that, like 15 years ago, there's not a serious computer science professor on the entire planet that could have predicted that we would have driverless cars today. And I mean, it's just amazing that they were able to do this. Now, a lot of that involves the use of this neural network, deep machine learning software, where the software is actually able to learn and adapt, and that's embedded into the arena where it's a learning arena. So it learns how to get better and better and better. So, so again, I'll let my CTO Ryan, and we can talk later about this, but it's more of a design philosophy in terms of how do we future-proof this so that it can accommodate all of the things that a future performer might dream about doing. In terms of the doors, that was the easiest part because we just stole the SpaceX, the same people that make those doors, those are being done right now. So you push a button and they come up in less than a minute, right? So they're very, that was like the easiest part of the whole equation.
Sure, let's do, I think we have time for one. Do we have time for one more, a couple more?
Congratulations. You built a phenomenal female girls basketball team. You were associated with the Warriors. What is the blueprint for the Kings?
Yeah, so it's, it takes time and it's a bit of a process, and it takes a while for everything to kind of set in and take hold. And so when I bought the team, the first thing I did is I wanted to get the culture and the values right. And so I have a mission statement for the Kings. And the mission statement is that we want to build a winning franchise that enhances the lives of those it touches and makes the world a better place. We have a set of values that we laid out, a culture of exceptionalism, integrity, openness, hard work, fun. And then we have a vision that we refer to as NBA 3.0. And that was the vision that actually helped me sell the NBA on letting me buy the Kings, where we want to build a global franchise, a global brand. We want to use technology. We want to do good in the community. So it all starts with kind of a mission and values, and then you have to get the right kinds of people in place, and it takes a while because when they gave me the keys to the place, literally the place was falling apart, like the roof was falling down, and the NBA called and said, hey, you can't play there till you fix the roof. Nobody wanted to be there. There was the GM, the coach. We had to kind of start from scratch, and I had like 1 or 2 weeks before the draft started. So it's a process, and we have on the business side, we were able to build a new team and keep some of the existing team members, and that's been very successful. But there was a great sense of urgency there because we had to get the arena done or we could lose the team. On the basketball side, it's we believe, and the kind of thing that happened at the Warriors, where you had some really good pieces. And in all fairness, when Joe and I got together with others and we bought the team, Steph Curry was already on the team, so we can't take credit for that. We could then take credit for Clay and Draymond Green and Harrison Barnes. So I think that over the next year or two, we'll have the culture and the pieces in place, and we just want to get players that fit our value system and embrace our mission, and then get the right kinds of people around them to develop the team. So I know it's been a kind of a up and down ride for us so far, but I went through this with the Warriors, where the first few years, we were getting booed and people were unhappy, and so you just have to have a thick skin and endure that, and have the confidence that if you put the right pieces in place and you have the right culture, it's not, at the end of the day, it's not rocket science, right? You need the right players, you need the right chemistry, and you need the right coaching to get it all done. And if you have 2 of those 3 legs, then you're pretty good. If you ace it in all 3 of them, then you become like the Warriors, and I think they've done that. So I feel pretty optimistic that we're headed in a direction. A new arena will open. Players actually do want to come to Sacramento. They know that we care deeply for the players. Just one story I'll end with. Shortly after we took ownership of the team, we were having summer league in Las Vegas, and we all went to a fancy place to eat, and one of my rookie players at the time, he had grown up in a very, very poor background, and came from a difficult home situation, and many nights would go to sleep on an empty stomach. So people are ordering, and then it's his turn to order, and he didn't recognize anything on the menu because that was way fancier than any place he had ever eaten at. So he ordered mashed potatoes. That's the only thing that looked familiar to him. And then later on, we saw him sign his contract, and there were all kinds of people around him who were clearly just vultures, really. And so after that, I went back, and it troubled me deeply that, these kids were so young and people were taking advantage of them, and they didn't really have skills beyond basketball. And while there was a lot of focus on, how do I teach them basketball, there was really no focus on how do I teach them life. And so we created something we call King's Academy. And what we do is we want to give our players life skills and life education. And it's all, some of it is compulsory, some of it is optional. It could range from, how do you sleep on the road, how do you invest your money, how do you build your brand, how do you interact with other people. And this summer, I actually had the Kings come to Silicon Valley and come to my home. I live here, and we had a practice at Stanford, and then I actually had them go to the Tesla factory, and I wanted to show them what the future looked like, and I wanted to show them what the Tesla was, and what the factory looked like, and how it was made, and the robots, and so we believe that that's who we are. We're a team of the future. We care about the players, and we want to give them more than just basketball skills. We want to be the team that's known for King's Academy and how we treat our players.
Love a basketball question, especially to close out. Let's do this before we thank your keynote. Let's one more time thanks to Pollstar for allowing us. Vivek, Ranadivé, appreciate it, Gary. And then obviously hope you enjoyed your time with your keynote speaker, chairman of the Sacramento Kings, owner. Please give it up one more round of applause. Vivek Ranadivé. Thanks everybody. Have a great rest of your day.